Here is the old kick from, I guess this is 2017, and this is how the kick sounds before. Here you go. And this is the end result after we have been fixing the kick. There you go. Yo! What is up, guys? It's time for another Brotherz hardstyle tutorial. And today, tips and tricks about hardstyle kicks. And the way I'm going to approach this is fixing an older kick of ours from, I guess it's around 2017, and making it more like a better version of itself. And we're going to use the elements of the kick, and we are going to make low end with SERUM. I'm also going to show in the beginning how you can fix the low end of already existing kick, and well, you can see in the tutorial. Afterwards, I wasn't satisfied with the results, so I made another low end with the SERUM synthesizer. And before we start, we can give away this kick for free, but it requires something, and it requires the thumbs up for this video, and 500 of those. When we reach that goal, we're gonna release this kick for free. And what else? Do you already know the pattern to this? If you know, it starts with an S. It's time to subscribe. Now you can press the button, and now that you have, thank you so much. Yeah, let's get on to the tutorial. And first, we're going to, fix the low end of the kick. We start with the tail, then go to the punch, and lastly, we are going to make character for the tail and a lot of fixing in the end, and a little bit more layering. Actually, I used some part of the crunchiness of the tail from our kick we are using at the moment. And in the end, you can also hear how it sounds with a melody, and the melody we used is from our new track, Battlefield. I left Spotify link down below. Go stream it, put it on your playlist. Enjoy it. It came out yesterday, Friday, 17th of December. Perfect. Now, let's get into the tutorial. Note to myself before we start. Make sure that you're recording before you are speaking about 30 minutes. Okay, let's do this again. And let's reset these things. Okay, so let's fix this kick, and I'm going to show you, of course, all the tips and tricks to improve your kicks. And what are we going to do is we are going to fix the low end on this kick, fix the punch, and well, basically everything. And then we are going to do some little construction kits, some extra things you can use in your tracks. And yes, so let's start. First of all, let's hear the original kick. Let's not hear it because it's muted. No. And then there is an EQ. There you go. And okay, it sounds like a hardstyle kick, but it's not nowhere good enough that you could actually use this one. Well, maybe you could use this like 2014. Maybe this was made so long time ago. Who knows? Well, this is really old kick, which we made. Yes, so let's first fix this, and let's start with the most important part, which is the low end of the kick. And this is something I cannot emphasize enough. If you have a good low end on your kick, the sub, the punch, you're golden. That's basically all you need to get right to make your kick sound really, really good. And if your low end sucks, your kick sucks as well. So let's start. First of all, let's make the tail and the sub of the tail. Let's make that perfect. Then let's make a better punch, and then let's look what else we can do. So what I usually start when I'm fixing a kick is that I'm going to EQ it like so. So I cut away everything from 201 Hz. So there's only the low end, the fundamental frequency, which in this case is here, which is the highest peak in the low end. And as you can see, here we have the first harmonic. You could also cut all the way so you leave only the fundamental frequency, but in this case I wanted to show that you can do this also with leaving the first harmonic. And you could do this with a synthesizer as well, and I would recommend actually doing like that. We made in our latest kick, we made the low end with a synthesizer, and it's more perfect than the way I'm going to show you now, but this is actually quite viable option as well. And you can use the same technique with the synthesizer. All you need to do is basically make a sine wave, put it low enough so it's only a sub frequency, and then you are going to do the same EQ and distorting like I'm going to show now, except you need to be, more dramatic with it. So you need to do more distorting, more EQing, more radical moves, so to speak. And this is just, we are a little bit skipping by using the old tail. Yeah, so what I do next is I cut away the punch, so we leave only the tail part, like so. And then I recorded it with Edison. I have it here. So this is the same thing as you heard before. And as you can see, the low end is, well, in this case, it looks really rounded. And the waveform is basically a, what do you call this? Triangle wave. Yeah, that's it. And what you're looking for is more unified waveform, more like a sausage or a tube kind of looking. And the waveform itself should be a, I don't know if it's a combination of a sine and a square wave looking thing. It's a sine wave with another little peak after the highest peak. And yeah, let's work with that. So I recorded it, then I put it into a playlist and assigned it into a mixer track, which is here. And as you can hear, it's the same thing again. And after that, the first things I do is put a limiter at the end of the mixer chain. So now you are not going above 0 dBs, and in some cases this actually even distorts the sound even more if you are using an extreme setting. In this case, it's just well, there's nothing on it. I just opened FabFilter Pro L and left it like that. And the next thing you want to do, I can show you. You want to do the exact same thing as you did with when you recorded the low end, and cut out all the highs from, above the first harmonic frequency. And let's delete this one because I already have it here. And in this case, I wanted to cut from 184 Hertz. And the other parts here are just, I made it after, shaping the sound. So all you want to do is just cut out the unnecessary high end. And now it sounds like this. Basically the same. And then you want to add this is not empty, but you want to add an empty EQ here, and don't do anything with it. This is just, you're gonna use this EQ after you have done some distorting. So the next logical thing is to add distortion, and the waveform we are looking for requires quite heavy distorting. And in this case, I chose to use Mistortion 2 and the Fruity Wave Shaper. And this is something you need to do on your own. There's no single, preset or thing that works out the best. You just have to tweak them until you get a waveform that you are satisfied with. So, after the two distortions, you can see the waveform here. It's completely different. And I have this Exoscope, which is a free plugin, and this basically does the same thing. You can see the waveform, and it's just bigger than here. You can do the tail parts, the sub frequencies by visually. Of course, you need to hear what you are doing, but this is a great reference when you are working with the low end. And after the distortions, we have another corrective EQ where we are reducing a little bit on the harmonic frequencies, and it's just for the sake of shaping the waveform and the sound how we like it. And then it sounds like this. And the waveform looks like this. Now that if we compare the two, let's cut it like this. This was the before, and this is after. And this is actually quite close what we would like to see. And you can get the perfect waveform with a synthesizer, for example, in SERUM. I'm going to show you in the end of this tutorial how to make something like that. And on our kicks we use, submate with SERUM, because you can make it more perfect than just fixing an older kick. But as you can see, the old one was a triangle, and this is more like a sine wave with another little peak after the highest peak in the waveform. And what it actually does is that if you understand how speakers work, their signal comes in. Well, basically there's the zero line, which is here in the middle. The speaker is in neutral position. Then there's a positive way when the speaker moves forward, and the negative when the speaker moves back. And that's how, the speakers work. And that's how the digital information becomes audible air pressure. Yeah. The reason you want this type of waveform is that the speaker moves a lot more and it creates more pressure when you have the the harmonic peak. I don't know what this is called, but when your waveform looks like this, it's a sine wave with another peak. The speaker moves a lot more and than just in a triangle or square or not square or saw wave. So aim for this type of waveform, and also remember that you want the low end as unified as possible, so it again seems more louder than it actually is. These are basically from the same low end, except this one is fixed, this one is not. They are both in same peak level, which is -0 decibels, and as you can hear, this sounds way louder than this one. So now you have the fixed low end. We exported it here. And now let's make a punch for this one. So, time for the punch part of the kick. And what I'm going to do next is look for a EDM style kick which has a punch I like, and then we are going to put this on the playlist, tweak it, make it work with the tail, and then we are going to make some sort of movement into the low end. So this is gonna take a while. I'm just gonna browse to the sounds. I put a high cut on the master channel, so now when I'm browsing through different kicks in FL Studio, I can only hear the low end, and it makes easier for me to choose the perfect punch like this. You can also use something like Kick 2 to make your own kick, and I would recommend using that. We don't have that, but there's a lot more options and a lot more tweaking you can do, but this is also much faster way, in my opinion. So bear with me a second. We can try with this one, and if I choose to change this sound, no worries, that happens a lot. And now it's time to remove the EQ, we don't need it anymore. And now let's call this the punch. I wish I knew how to write. There you go, and let's rename it and put it in a mix track. And now what you're looking for in a hardstyle kicks punch is basically the first few milliseconds you don't want any low end. And the reason is that the punch is basically, it's not like in this case it's a tunt. It's more like a oomph, which comes just before the tail low end. And I'm trying to shape this sound a little bit, and I'm going to put this EQ actually back on, so I listen only to the low end. And I'm going to try to, get the punch sound the way I like, and then I'm going to explain how and why. Alright, bear with me a second. I'm going to put an EQ on the punch itself. Let's lower a little bit on the master. Okay, now it's somewhat right. Of course, the movement of the kick is quite bad at the moment. But you know, we'll fix that as good as we can. And now we have this sounding punch. And this is the oomph part of the kick, which in a bigger sound system makes your, you know, it hits you here in the chest. And this is actually quite hard part of the kick, in my opinion, to get the perfect punch. Let's fix this as good as we can, but this might take a long time to get right. And I know at least for me it did like weeks. So let's tweak this a little bit. Let's distort it a little bit, and then let's combine it with the low end and try to find a suitable, pleasant movement with the punch and with the tail low end. Let's try that. Let's move the EQ down. Let's put a limiter at the end, so we are not clipping at any point. And let's try just listen and distort it just slightly. Maybe we get something out of it. We could also use a... Let's try using a compressor. Let's try something like that. And now, let's route these to a bus. Let's call it kick low end. And let's try to move the waveform so it sounds a little bit better. Sorry about the pops and the crackles, because, well, it's because of this tail bit. If you're not cutting it perfectly, it doesn't reset into a, you know, zero state, and it gives a little click. Let's move these all the way up here. just a minute. This is just a little bit tweaking and moving things around, so bear with me a little bit. Alright, now we are getting somewhere. Let's leave it at that at the moment. So, let's look at what we did here. So I added a little bit of distortion in the punch, some EQing, some compression, just to make it smack a little bit more, and another EQ and a distortion limiter at the end, so we are not going above 0 dBs. And on the low end I did nothing, and then I routed these into a bus together and added a little bit of distortion, and just a tiny bit, just to glue them a little bit more together. And I don't know about this movement at the moment. Well, when you're making kicks, and if you're making this into a track, you already have a melody or something, you would like to have some part of the melody on the project as well. So you are trying to create the movement to match with the melody. And now that we don't have any reference, we are going to just do something. You could also make the low end of the tail a lot shorter and make the punch longer. There's nothing wrong with that. You just try different stuff out, how you like to do it. But, you know, this is one way to make a kick, so, or fix a kick. And we might come back to this later, this low end, but at the moment, let's leave it like that. And now let's try to make some other sounds rather than just the low end. And I would say we should first make a talk part of the kick, which is just before the punch. It's a little snap, and it's the thing that's going to, you know, you need to make it so it works with the punch. So there's a tight little smack, which has, of course, highs, mids, low mids, so on, and it ties together with the punch, so they work together to make a powerful talk, or the punch, the whole general start of the kick. Well, if you are looking at the kicks like in EDM, there's a kick and then there's the bass line. So now we're making the kick and we have the bass line here. Alright, so let's try to fix this sound. Sorry, there's an EQ. Let's use this one and let's try to fix this a little bit. And first of all, this is the whole punch sound, and I don't think we need that long. I think this should be, you know, enough. And let's record this one. And now we have another punch here. Let's move this all the way here. And now let's work with this one. And let's rename this to talk kata snap. Let's make it green. Green is good. And let's assign this to a mixer track. And let's shorten this by a lot. And now we have a snap. Let's lower the volume a lot and let's mix it with the punch. There we go. And let's EQ this a little bit. Let's remove the low end. And actually, before we go any further, let's make a talk bus, because we are going to add more things to this than just the snap. We need some character into it. And let's make a kick bus in general. So now we are going to route the low end into the kick bus and also the talk. And let's again put a limiter at the end, but this time I'm going to use a different limiter. Let's use the Oxford inflator, which is basically not a limiter, it's more like a maximizer, I guess. Well, anyway, let's continue. And yeah, let's shape this a little bit. Let's try compressors, let's try distortion, just trying to shape it a little bit and just trying different stuff. So let's do that. And also, what I would recommend with this one is to make it mono. So yeah, you don't need any side information with the snap of the kick. Why would you? You can also leave it as it is, but I'd say use mono. It's better, in my opinion, in this case. And let's try to do some distortion. Then let's use a compressor. Now we're talking. Now it sounds like a snap. And I wouldn't do anything more at this point into it. And now let's make some character. And let's use this same talk we used before. Let's name it like this. Punch character. Let's put it into an empty mix track. And let's route this into a talk bus. And now, when we have the snap, we don't need it on the character. At least not that much. This depends on many things. If it fits, you don't need to, cut the first part of it. But let's do it for sake of this tutorial. And yeah, same thing. Let's try do different types of things. Let's try EQing it. Let's try distorting it. And we could also try make a reverb on it as well. Let's try that. Here we go. And let's EQ it a little bit more. Let's make it like that. It's more raw stylish. Let's balance out the volumes. And I guess there's a basic sound. And now we can try to add a reverb, and what I'm thinking is just I'm trying to make a reverb that is just creating space and not necessarily being a long reverb, just a little short one. And let's name this punch character reverb. Let's give it a beautiful deep pink color. And let's put a Valhalla room here. And first of all, I'm going to try these ambiences, how they sound. So it creates, well, a stereo effect, and makes feel like it's in a different space. Let's EQ this slightly. There we go. Now it's a little bit better. And I guess now we have a decent punch for a hardstyle kick. This is quite snappy, and you could also, well, we could shape this a little bit in the bass. And by shaping, I mean fucking distorting it. And what I'm trying to do is distort it so it doesn't destroy the snap, but it makes it more unified. Well, it's going to suffer a little bit, but let's not try to destroy it too much. We could also try with a limiter. See if we get a better result than with the distortion. I think that's okay. Yeah, now we have the whole punch part of the kick fixed, and we only have the character of the tail left and a little bit tweaking on the whole kick. And yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, I took a little break, rest my ears a little bit, and now we have the punch ready. Let's move on to the tail and mute the punch. And let's make a character for this tail. And we are going to use, of course, the original kick. And let's make a copy of this. Why can't I find what I'm looking for? There we go, make unique. And this is going to be tail character. I don't know how many layers we're going to do, but let's try it with one, and let's make this yellow. Let's rename this and put this into a different mixer track. And let's route it here on the kick bus. And we are going to cut out the low end because we already made the low end. Let's cut around 200 Hz and put this here. Let's of course put a limiter because I think we are going to distort this. And let's lower the volume and listen what we got here. First of all, let's do it. Yeah. And yeah, let's try shaping this sound a little bit. And this is the part where you can do whatever you want. Distort it, EQ. Just be creative and do something and try to find a sound you like. Yeah, let's just distort the hell out of this one. And try to make it sound as nice as possible. Like that. And we can do the same trick as we did in the punch. We can give it some reverb. And like so. Let's put the same color. route it here. Actually, let's use the same reverb. And let's shape this a little bit. I don't like this, so let's tweak it. A little better. And let's hear how it sounds with the punch. And let's move the waveform around here and try different stuff. We can try to flip the face of this and just try to get it sound so it fits perfectly with the punch and the low end. Okay, it's somewhat decent. And yeah, the tail character is pretty simple. And I think that's the easiest part you can fix. And yeah, depending on what kind of hardstyle you produce. If you are more into raw style, maybe you want to, you know, make the tail sound a little bit more extreme. And if you are focusing on really melodic and, you know, big lead sounds, maybe you want to tame the tail a little bit, so you are already leaving some headroom for the lead. And since we don't have any reference right now or any track which we are making this kick for, we are just going to, you know, wing it. And you can always, when you're making a kick, you can always come back and tweak it and do whatever you want. Yeah, let's make this whole package, you know, combined into one unified kick and try to do some little tricks to it as well. Yeah, let's be right back. Now, let's try to make this unified and one single solid kick. And for that, I'm going to lower the volume because it's easier to hear the mistakes when you are playing lower volume than just blasting it full on your ears. And first of all, let's try to use a bus compressor. To make it move a little bit. Now let's EQ, and I want a visual reference to this to help me out a little bit. Let's EQ the punch a little bit. and the low end. And now comes the part where you're just fixing things from here and there and try to make it work all in all as a one solid kick. And you could also use a professional kick as a reference, and when we make the kicks we are using in our tracks, we always use a reference and try to match, you know, the frequency balance with the professional kick. Because there's still something weird here in the low end. Let's try something a little bit radical and I'm gonna need to shape the low end a little bit, so I'm just gonna edit this a little bit faster, so I'll be right back. You know what we are gonna do? At this point, let's change the low end. I'm not happy with it, so now it's time to show you the other way of doing the low end. And for that, we are going to need a SERUM. Let's see if I had it here. And there we go, it just took a little tweaking and doing stuff. Now we have, I guess, visually and at least a little bit better low end. So let's record a long stretch like so. There we go. Let's put it here. Put this on the same mix track as this one. So that was a 9. We don't need the whole thing. Let's do it like this. And how does it look like? Maybe we could shorten the tail a little bit. Let's combine everything. And let's tweak a little bit more. And we could also actually use this another low end to create another layer for the tail. And I think we should do that. Let's keep it on the, same waveform. And let's call this tail character 2. So as you already know at this point, when you're making a kick, it's a creative process. It takes a little bit time, and I hope this is not too messy going all over the place. I'm trying to do this as consistently and as logically as possible, but always you have to, return, go back to another thing, fix something, do this, do that. But yeah, I hope you get something out of this. And the first part was actually really consistent, and now it's just jumping all over the place. But anyway, let's continue, and I'm going to be quiet again for a while, just trying to make another tail character sound. And let's see what we can come up with. Actually, we can route it to here. So I routed this other tail layer into the same channel as is the first layer. So now it goes into the same reverb, and it already has the, the low end carded and everything like that. So let's try to tweak this a little bit. God damn it. I messed up a little bit. No worries. Let's rename this to new tail low end, and let's rename the clip and put this into. All right. Everything fixed. Let's move on. There's something funny about the movement as it is right now. It actually isn't that bad, but as you can hear, by simply moving this one layer, we can get a whole different kick sound. And let's just choose one. used like that. And now let's try to finish this kick with something. Let's kind of master it. Let's try the Maximus presets first, because usually these are quite good. And now they suck. So let's not do that. Okay, I think that's already decent kick fix. Of course, these take time. 1 hour is way too little to do something like this, and it requires patience. And the more you do it, the more better you get at it, and in the end, you can do things a lot faster. And it's been actually quite a while since been working on a kick, and this was actually quite fun. I don't know if this is any usable, but at least it's a fixed kick. And yeah, actually I didn't show quite fully how and why and what did I do with the SERUM. Well, I already have a preset which is used in some of our tracks as a baseline. Not anymore, but this was basically done with the same principle as fixing the low end on the other kick. As you can see, the waveforms are really similar, so there's no reason why can't you do either way. In this case, you can see that the low end, the tail was quite short in the original kick, so it was actually better to make a completely new low end with the SERUM, because as you can see in the end, it just fades out a little bit. And I guess this was much better. You have more control. You can shape the the length of the tail more accurately. And now if we record this, it's quite squashed already. You could also shape this a little bit actually. And I guess we are gonna fix this even more. And I guess it's coming from the punch. I'm just gonna fiddle it around a little bit. Just a minute. And there was a little example that you can, when you get the first pattern you like, you have all the things you like, you can, well, anything you change here, you get completely different kicks. And this is just, when you get this first one perfect, it's so much easier to make another kicks with minor tweaks, really. And I would definitely recommend that you make this kind of kick project for yourself. Okay, we are gonna leave it at that. And few other things before we end this tutorial, and I'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, so I recorded the whole kick. Let's still shape it a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how you can make a pre-shifter for the kick, and yeah, then let's try it out on an actual melody. Does this work or not? We'll see. Do I have to record all over this again? Yeah. So I recorded the kick. Let's put it here. Let's loop this one. This is called kick version 1. Let's make it red. Name the clip. And let's put it on a mix track. And what I would like to do is just make this, you know, the punch into the actual tail a little bit lower in volume. So basically just a volume automation. And let's do that. Let's choose this one. I guess here would be quite. And we can still distort it even more. Now let's record this one. And I think now it looks a little bit better. And there you go. Now we have a fixed kick. Let's put this into a mixer track. I'm so used to work with 2 monitors, so I hate working with 1 monitor when I'm recording something. Okay, so now we have the final kick. Let's call it final kick. And put it also on a mixer track. And now to create a different kind of movement into a kick, you can always make a pre-shifter. And how you can do that? You can use the same kick as you did, and you can make it unique, reverse it, and now it's all about just fiddling with it. Let's make it a little bit quieter. Something like this. And let's try to move it a little bit. EQ it a little bit. And now you got a pre-shifter for your kick. And I will recommend that you do this on the project itself, even when you're creating music, rather than using this as a, you know, rendering this as a whole kick, because when you are pitching it, you are pitching also the pre-shifter. Well, maybe in some cases you want that, but when we are doing this, we usually don't want to pitch it. So there's that. But this adds a little bit more movement into the kick, and it also feels like the end of the kick is more like sucking into the punch. And this is more like a, you know, do you know how to speak English? You know, the more extreme example of how you can do it. And you can emphasize it even more if you want. You can make it more stereo. Like so. And if you want, you can also layer your kick with a reverb. And that's also a viable option. Let's try something. I just put a Valhalla room there. Little EQ. And in this case, you would actually want to use a sidechain or a pre-shifter. What are we looking at? We are 155 BPM, so it's somewhere around there. And just try different. You can make it sound more stereo, more bigger, but it all depends on what kind of music are you making. Are you making raw style? Are you focused only on hard kicks, or are you focused on melodies? And of course, you don't want to overdo it. If you're focusing on melodies and making big leads, chords and everything, maybe you don't want a reverb on the kick itself. And you can try different this actually sounds pretty cool to me if you are mixing it correctly compared to this. It's quite static, stationary. It's a subtle difference, but it actually makes a whole lot of, you know, difference into the whole kick sound. And that's already semi-decent kick. And I'll be right back. Let's test this with the melody. Let's see how it works. I'll be right back. I'll open another project. So I already tested it a little bit, and I noticed the tail was lacking some nice crunchiness, so let's add that. I have our kick we are using now, and I pitched it to the same key as is this kick, and let's try to get a little bit more crunch into it. A lot better. Now we need a limiter at the end. Actually, even though it's clipping, it's sounding, in my opinion, a lot better. Let me try something. Did I learn something new here? And now I'm actually leaving the reverb as well because it was needed. I think the stereo information wasn't good enough, so let's try to still fix this just a tiny bit. God damn it. I forgot to trim it a little bit. And now you can see they're all over the place, you know, the punch and the tail, so we're gonna fix that. But let's try to fix this because actually I like the sound. It sounds a little bit old schoolish. I don't know. It sounds so familiar. This is actually a really cool one. I like it. Now I wonder if we can just fiddle with some limiters. And I think we need to still split these apart from the the punch and the tail. Yeah, let's do that. Let's play a little surgeons, shall we? Cut this here. I'm not going to name these. Let's make this unique. Put the limiter in the wrong channel. How about now? Now, let's record this and try again. Alright, I'm going to export this and go into another project. Be right back. Alright guys, I'm in our lead design project and we are going to test if this kick works with the melody, because we haven't had any reference so far, and I think it does. For such a short kick fix, it turned out pretty great actually. Of course it's not perfect, but it's good. We're gonna use the melody from our latest track, Battlefield, which came out 17th of December, yesterday. Go streaming on Spotify. And without further ado, let's hear the kick with a melody. Of course, you could mix it a little bit better, but this was just test. And it's a hardstyle kick. It sounds a little bit old schoolish, I think. But nonetheless, it's a decent, good hardstyle kick. And what else? Yeah, still, if you're watching this, reminder, 500 thumbs ups, and this kick goes for free. Yeah, I think the most important parts of this tips and tricks for hardstyle kicks is that get the low end sound right. Most of your time you want to use on the punch and on the tails low end. Those are the important parts of any hardstyle kicks. Yeah. I think that was all. If you have any questions about hardstyle kicks and something that you would like to know and we didn't tell you in this tutorial, leave a comment. We always answer to, well, not any rude or, unnecessary comments, but if you have questions, feel free to ask. And of course, there are things that we don't know about. We are not all-knowing gods or anything like that. And there are other really good kick tutorials in YouTube as well. And we didn't go any reverse-based kicks on this tutorial, or gated kicks or psy kicks. Basically, if you remove the gated kicks out of the equation, you can make a reverse-based kick from the hardstyle kick we made, or you can make a psy kick. It just requires maybe cutting out things and making a different movement in the kick. It's not really that difficult. If you want a reverse-based tutorial, we can make that. And well, we could actually do a part 2 about this. Maybe do something with a reverse bass, gated kick, and maybe a psy kick as well. Yeah. If you like that idea, I think we're gonna post question it on YouTube, so you can vote on it. Like you did on this tutorial. This was voted by you guys. Hopefully it matched your expectations. And now, this is the end of the tutorial. Hope you liked it. Hope you got something out of it. I know this is a long one. Sorry, I'm not doing any short tutorials because you're not learning anything from those. They're useless. They're just jokes, in my opinion. Alright. Until next time. Peace out.